What's up, revolutionaries? DC with you here. Our Revolution TV with Project Sanity and special live coverage of the Our Revolution live stream from Bernie Sanders. We all decided that this was really something that we should cover, considering everyone at this channel's investment over the last year in the Bernie Sanders campaign and trying to get him exposed in the mainstream media and to the general population. And tonight we're going to go ahead and bring you the live stream. We're all set up to do that. It's going to start in about 25 minutes. And as soon as it starts, we'll bring that to you. But meanwhile, we're going to chat about it a little bit. And some folks are here visiting me in the show today. Brandon Sutton is joining me from New York City. What's going on, Brandon? How are you?
All right, how you doing, DC?
I'm doing really good. I'm a little ambivalent about this stream tonight. We have a shakeup over the weekend. We've got Jeff Weaver being announced as the head of this new organization, and then we have a what looks like a mass exodus, or at least a not only an exodus of half the staff, but also a revolt within of those that are left. Apparently, writing a letter to Weaver and the organization about their displeasure. So interesting to see. It's going to be very curious to see what we're going to see tonight. What are your expectations, if any? Is
Well,
this is it about Bernie Sanders anymore?
I mean, I think for a lot of people it was about Bernie Sanders, and I think he keeps leveraging, despite rhetoric, he keeps leveraging people's love of him to get them to come to these things. And it's been a very long primary. It's been a very long primary with a lot of disillusionment, a lot of disenchantment from the progressive base. I mean, toward from the within the progressive base, and
Sounds like Brandon's having some mic issues. Maybe he can rejoin the hangout. But Adair's back in the room here, and while Brandon gets his audio straightened out, Adair Schmidt joining us, also interested, currently supporting the Green candidate. But we need to hear what Bernie Sanders has to say, or at least what his new organization has to say. There's what rumors he's not going to speak, or is he going to speak?
Well, that's the big question. I think is I've heard from both sides that he is going to speak, that he's not going to speak. I've heard a lot of concerns that this is going to become some kind of pro Clinton commercial tonight. I've heard refuting reports refuting that from sources close to the campaign. So I'm interested to see what will happen tonight. But generally speaking, um, I've talked to a few folks that have been endorsed by this, brand new Congress movement and things like that, and I think it's going to be along those lines. I think it's going to be about really working the down ticket progressive candidates, which I think is something we can all get behind. Though the mass exodus and the current revolt, both of those things definitely have me worried as we move forward in with this.
Right. No, I hear you. I understand. Oops, sorry. Didn't want that to happen. Okay, I think I've clicked appropriately now. Okay, good. There's Brandon. There's that. What I'm doing, guys. Sorry, I'm setting up. I'm setting up. I'm going to transfer here. There's Brandon and Adair. You can look at them, and they can chat here while I'm setting up. I've got Eric Miller, another contributor and producer here at Project Sanity, is bringing us an audience feed. So I'm bringing that up as well as watching the revolution. But why don't you guys take the floor and talk about tonight and what's our way forward?
well, first let me test my audio. How am I sounding? Okay, okay. Well, what I was saying before is that I think what Adair says is right on. People are expecting this to be, a more ideologically based endorsement. Like, we're endorsing progressive values, progressive ideologies, divorced from candidates first, and then here are some candidates that are aligned with these ideologies, as opposed to working backwards, which I would say is here are some Democratic candidates, and let's make sure that they fit with our ideology in the future, as long as we have Democrats in Congress. And I think that's what people want, because at the DNC we saw the exact reverse of that, which is here are some Democrats. Let's hope they fit in with our ideology. And so I think people are tired of that. I think that a lot of people I've talked to, and I'm sure you've talked to, have expressed dissatisfaction with the Sanders campaign so far toward the moving towards this our revolution, and are afraid that this is going to be another like championing Hillary, championing the Dem establishment type scenario. And I think that if that happens, we're going to see a lot more disenchantment with, this. I don't think this is going to get off the ground. You're going to see a lot of a mass exodus from this as well.
Right. I totally agree with you there. A lot of just a blanket term here, progressives that I've talked to, even some that have left the Democratic Party after the convention because of what was happening, because Senator Sanders did endorse Secretary Clinton, have joined the Green Party, are willing to give him another shot tonight, and are like, all right, we'll see what our revolution is about. I'll check it out, and then maybe if this is something I can get behind, I'd be happy to come and work with Senator Sanders and our revolution moving forward. So I think this is a chance. He has a real chance to bring back the people, some of the people, not all, some of the people that he's already lost. But I think there's a much bigger chance that he loses, this whole idea of a revolution falls flat on its face simply because it just isn't what people are looking for right now in terms of what's being offered by our revolution. I think that this has to be the first step to a coalition. I think this has to endorse independents. This has to endorse Green Party folks. This has to really be not just about the national level either, but getting people involved in their community. Otherwise, I really don't think it is our revolution. I think it would be an extension of the Democrats get out the vote effort. What do you think about that?
I mean, I agree. I think that I'll expand. I think that Bernie Sanders has largely criticized Barack Obama's allowing the grassroots movement to sort of wane away after the 2008 election. Letting it just fade away. Not keeping them mobilized, not keeping them, engaged, and just letting them fade away in favor of Wall Street money. And I think that maybe this is his way of keeping them engaged. But what are they engaged for? Right? What are we being engaged for? Like you put, this is going to be a wide, ideological thing. Like we are progressive with progressive ideologies, and here are candidates who are willing to fight for those ideals outside of the Democratic Party. That's what I really want to see. I think that's going to be the test. Like, can we expect non-Democrats to get part of this sort of our revolution endorsement, even if they're in races with Democrats? Because I mean, this comes all the way back to Dem exit. If you're not going to be willing to remove yourself from the party or go against the party when it diverges from these progressive ideals, then what are we talking? We're not really talking about a progressive movement. We're talking about a democratic movement that sometimes have progressive elements within it. And so I think that we really need to. We're going to have to be a little bit suspicious at first, like that kind of like this. Like I'm a little bit suspicious to make sure this is not just another wing of the Democratic establishment. But so,
right,
if that makes any sense.
Well, no, I think it makes perfect sense, and I think those concerns are incredibly valid, especially with what we've been hearing about Tim Canova, right? Where he's come out publicly on the record and said, well, hey, guess what? I'm not getting a whole lot of help here, and I could really use it, especially going up against DSW. So I'm afraid that it's going to stray from the notion that we think it's going to be. I think it is the grassroots movement that he's built up until this point. I think, frankly, is going to wither and die if this does not break from the Democratic Party. I mean, and what really gets me is this is his first time running as a Democrat. Like, he's been an independent up until this point who just so happens to sit on the left-hand side of the aisle. I mean, you have to take that. You built this campaign of people are tired of the establishment. People are tired of the status quo over there in D.C., so actually do that. Get ready, get people involved, reach out to the Greens, reach out to independents, reach out to liberal Democrats, and I don't care who's running in the race. I don't care if that person's running against a Democrat. Put the most progressive candidate out there, back them, and make sure they get elected, because that's what we want. That's what this whole campaign was built around, was getting the most progressive people into Congress And I don't believe, and I don't think most of us believe, that that's the Democrat 9 out of 10 times.
I mean, of course not. I think, but of course, and then this goes back to the whole DNC. This is just like going back to DNC over and over again. You know, pragmatism versus sort of that a more progressive ideology, and like how can we, get the two to mesh very well? And my fear is that we're gonna see this a lot. Where they're gonna want to show unity, and which is gonna be vote dim, because they're gonna use the power of they're gonna try to use the power of down ballot progressives to bolster Hillary Clinton's sort of uh, uh sort of progressive leeway that she's unable to garner with her own history. But at the same time, not want to stray from Democrat. I want to see our revolution in every race. I want to know who's the most progressive candidate in every race, regardless of who's the Dem, who's the independent, who's X, who's Y, and who's Z. If we're just going to be talking about strategic races where the Democrat happens to be the most progressive person, then I would consider that to also be, just then it's just a game. I guess like this is just for appearances. We're not going to be talking about the races where the Democrat is the Dem establishment is the corrupting element. They are the ones pushing fracking. They are the ones pushing anti LGBTQ laws. If we're not going to be talking about those races, just the ones that the Democrats happen to be on the right side of, then I think that it's a wasted opportunity to have a coalition building movement right now.
Well, I can see that, and I definitely think that's a really valid concern, especially with what's been happening in our revolution. We've had a mass exodus. We've got the revolt happening inside the organization already, and it hasn't even launched yet, right? I mean, that's kind of frightening. And I think if they do what you were just talking about, in which they just pick the strategic races where it just so happens the person with a D next to their name happens to be the one who's truly progressive, I think that does more. I think that loses more people. I think that loses a huge chunk of who the Democrats want and who progressive people in general want, which is the youth vote. This, millennial group that's starting to come into our own and starting to slowly take over, the majority of the voting rolls here. We're getting out in larger and larger numbers. College students, I think, would consider this a slap in the face. It's already hard to get college students to vote. You pull something like this, and you just lose a major demographic. So I want to touch on pragmatism, like you mentioned earlier. I think that is an issue in today's voting. Is everybody thinks if your vote's not pragmatic, it's a wasted vote. For example, if you don't vote for a Democrat because that's an established party, they have a chance to win, you threw away your vote, and by doing so, you essentially cast a vote for another person. I don't know how that works, but to me, that sounds like election fraud if I'm voting for one person and it counts for someone else.
Well,
But
I think people are throwing around the words like pragmatic and incremental, and like, and all of these sort of just I don't know what you call it, like these buzzwords, these buzzwords to try to obscure what's really going on here, which is that you have two entrenched political parties that make it very hard for any movement to occur on a variety of issues, usually corporatism, usually, uh, so the social security, the social welfare state, issues that don't really affect and more issues that they don't have stakes in. And so if you divorce yourself from those issues, if you divorce yourself from the issues that the majority of Americans find to be troubling, so like the police state and all these other problems, and you only look at what they're saying they'll do, yeah, it seems like incremental change. It seems like you're being pragmatic to vote for the candidate who's seems to be more in line with the left or whatever. But then this is about broadening that conversation. This is about like really broadening that conversation to reveal the way the system has been misrepresented, where we have the Democrats as being the left party. Like, they're not the left party, not in any real way, not. And so for my perspective, it's not really pragmatic to vote for Democrats. It's just a lot of it's cowardice, a lot of it is fear of Trump, a lot of it is fear of the unknown, Like we've been in this two-party system for so long. Like what happens if it breaks down? What goes on? And you have a lot of people who are trying to play the reasonable adult in the room. They wanna pretend like they're making the reasonable, pragmatic decision, I'm afraid that that's not really the case in a lot of situations. Like you're making the decision, the most popular decision. Like you're just you're going in lockstep. And so in terms of like, I don't think voting Dem or voting establishment. 'Cause I find it hard to separate Dem from Republicans for on a lot of issues, specifically corporate welfare and these other problems that just never seem to go away. But like I don't view it as pragmatic, because in the long term we're just going to see further degradation of the American middle class, the working poor, all these endangered groups, simply to prop up a system that is it's bad for the vast majority of us. So I don't think that's pragmatic. I think that a lot of people can confuse it for pragmatic, or I think that's the goal of the system, for people to be able to confuse it
Well,
for
that's what I was going to
pragmatism.
say. That's it exactly. Is that it's not actually a pragmatic vote. I mean, it's pragmatic if you're thinking of who's going to be most likely to win. And let's be frank, third parties, just based on the way the system is set up, are not likely to win, right? I got that. We need to change the system. So I get why people can say it's pragmatic, but I definitely agree. That's the whole idea of the system, is it has to be self-perpetuating. And for it to perpetuate itself, it has to say, well, guess what? This is the pragmatic vote. This is where you want to come. This is, otherwise you're throwing your voice away. It doesn't do anything. But I think that with things like Our Revolution, I think with, seeing the corruption that has taken place in the Democratic Party and getting people's eyes open to that, I think we have a chance to really move from this archaic system. Though if we are going to talk about moving from it,
staying engaged and staying involved. Please, don't be shy. So I want to reiterate kind of what everybody else has kind of been saying, to just keep open-minded and listen to what Bernie has to say. And after we leave here tonight, we need to make sure we keep fighting for the down ballot candidates. I don't care what you think about the presidential position. What really affects us on a daily basis is our local progressives. We need to get them elected. So get out there, help them out, do everything you can, and have a great time tonight with some great people. Thank you. We got about 8 minutes.
And there you go, Eric, bringing it in for us.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to say?
That's going to bring that down. He's Eric Miller, one of our contributors here at Project Sanity. He is at a watch party in Olympia, Washington, and we're going to be getting audience reactions during the stream. Brandon and Adair have been talking about our way forward here on special Project Sanity broadcast of the Our Revolution launch program of Bernie Sanders, currently in a little bit of turmoil based on some of the information that we're getting in the mainstream media, as well as talking to some delegates, including Lauren Steiner, who will probably join us after the stream. She's doing a party over in Los Angeles with her new organization, Our Revolution LA. And she definitely has some opinions and some insight as to what's going on with this organization and its relationship with Jeff Weaver and Bernie Sanders. So look forward to hearing from there. I have some video of her I might be able to put together for afterwards as well. So we are waiting for the live stream, guys. We're going to bring it up here as soon as it goes live, which as Eric said is in about 7 minutes. We have Adair and Brandon Sutton in the room, and we are talking about a lot of stuff. It's a dynamic time, gentlemen.
I hope it is. I hope this is the beginning of real change. I hope this is I want to see a true destabilization of the two-party system. That's what I want out of this. If Our Revolution is not offering that, and whether it's an incremental way or in a very strong-handed way, a very sort of I'm advocating for the opening of a multi-party debate, or returning the debates back to the League of Women Voters, it's no longer bipartisan but nonpartisan,
Right. Well,
then
that's what Jill Stein's calling for as well, is that type of system.
yeah, it's like then what are we talking about here? It's like I think that in order to re-engage the progressive base, because I think a lot of people have been turned off, rightly or wrongly so. He has to be talking about something real, something. I think people have awoken to the fallacy of trying to get change within this system without having or rather change within the Democratic Party without having a legitimate source to the left to force that change on them. So I mean I just want to see a creation of a legitimate leftist party, so that, or even if it's a marginal party, but one that is viewed as a threat, so that the Democrats are forced to legislate to the left, a little bit to the left.
I think we should build up the Green Party if we're looking for a threat. I think this has the chance to really do that. As we mentioned earlier, we want to see this not just reach out to the Democratic candidate who just so happens to be the progressive one in that race, but to reach out and find out who's the most progressive candidate in every race that's going on. And I'm sure you'd have a ton of volunteers in every state willing to do that. So I think we take advantage of this. If it gives us that opportunity, I think we use this to build up the Green Party. And then once we have the Green Party having a substantial hold in multiple states, in Washington, I think they ran one candidate this year who was not able to make it in our top two primary system, which is unfortunate, but at least getting them running is important. I think we use this kind of system, and I think this is how we do it. I think we get a hold of Greens and, promote them. Give them that infrastructure. Bernie Sanders gives us a level of infrastructure that we have not had up until this point, because he taps into that mainstream idea of, he taps into mainstream popularity. He's able to get you onto Fox. He's able to get you on MSNBC. He's able to get you on CNN. And I think we use that and we leverage that to get truly progressive candidates. And I think in most races, that ends up being the Greens. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was a truly liberal organization to see it, start putting a lot of Green Party candidates in mayorships, state houses, and I think even up in Congress.
I mean, I'd like that, but I guess the alternative is that our revolution has a very short and ignominious life, in that it comes out, it's another way to get it's just an organization meant to do sort of get local Dems elected, as opposed to the sort of local branch of the DNC, as you would put it. So, because the DNC has so screwed up royally at the local level under DSW, under DWS's leadership, that
Yes.
it's just going to be. I forget, because I think DW, like Arthur's sister from the show Arthur, and I just mess it up. But it's DWS. It doesn't make a difference. Anyway, and it just becomes let's champion down ballot Dems party. While the DNC is focused on the national election, I'm here to tell you that Dems are great at your local level too, and we know that's just not the case. The same problems that exist at the national level for Democrats exist maybe to a lesser degree, but still to a significant degree at the local level, as corporate money trickles down, or it just trickles into local elections. They're just easily corrupted as well.
Well, we're going to talk about corporate money trickling into local elections. My very first quarter at my current school, the Evergreen State College down in Olympia, Washington. It's our state capital, but it's a very small community, largely a rural community outside of the downtown area. One of my professors ran for port commissioner. She ended up winning. But I believe, and I don't necessarily quote me on the numbers, they're rather large, and I'm not sure they're exact, but they are in the ballpark. She and I were talking, and she said that someone in Saudi Arabia funneled $50,000 into her opponent's campaign. From Saudi Arabia, $50,000 into the port commissioner of Olympia, Washington race. If we're getting that kind of money in a port commissioner's race in a tiny rural community in Washington State, not even Seattle or Tacoma even for that matter, which is a medium-sized city, but Olympia, a tiny farming community, is getting money from Saudi Arabia, $50,000 worth shoved into a campaign with two people running, I don't see how that, you get away from that when you go to statewide elections, legislative district elections. I wouldn't be surprised if Walmart was pumping, $1 million to $2 million into select races for state houses in different states. I can say Washington. I wouldn't be surprised to see if they put, $250,000, $500,000 into different campaigns at the legislative district level, buying essentially state representatives and senators.
And that's why we have to be careful not to fall into that trap of assuming that the corruption begins and ends at the national level, or that money, these $billion national elections, that's where the money stops. It's much easier to buy, a federal judge in a state, or a state judge, and have them, or a state attorney general, and have them look the other way for your polluting, or have them do X, Y, and Z, and make sure that your company is given sort of tax breaks within a state, and that that can be just as dangerous for everyone involved. So we have to do a two-pronged assault the two-party system at the national level, and assault the two-party system at the local level, because ultimately people are going to look at the the name of the president, and that's going to affect down ballot decisions on who to vote for. Like, having a presidential candidate legitimizes local politicians so much more than people think it does. You can't just pretend like what goes on to presidency has no effect.
I agree, and I mean,
but we need Supreme Court justices or something like that. Like, that's why we all have to vote for Clinton. We need Supreme Court justices.
Change never takes place
Starting.
from the top down. It takes place when people, by the millions, sometimes over decades and sometimes over centuries, determine that the status quo, the world that they see in front of them, is not the world that should be. And they come together, and sometimes they get arrested, and sometimes they're on a picket line, and sometimes they die in the struggle. And what human history is about is passing that torch on from generation to generation to generation, of people who pick up the torch that may have begun hundreds or literally thousands of years ago. And young people stand in front of the world today and say, no, this is not the world that I am comfortable with. This is the world we are going to change. There are major, major, major issues that confront us today, and we need your help. We need the idealism and the energy and the intelligence of millions of people to join us in the fight to make America the kind of country we know it must become.
Hey, I'm Bill McKibben from here in Vermont, and I'm happy to welcome you to the start of this new revolution. Now, revolution is reasonably hard work. Bernie's given us an enormous gift with his endless stamina, with his drive, and with his principle. He's provided momentum, which is the most valuable commodity that there could be. He has proved like no one ever before him, that this set of ideas about the world that many of us hold, about fairness and about equality and about the future, that these are not fringe ideas, that these are ideas in the absolute center of the American heart. Now it's our job to make sure that this momentum keeps building. Bernie's America's most popular politician. Partly that's down to his glamour and charisma, but partly it's because of this set of issues and ideas that he has come to embody and that we're going to have to embody. And look, if we're going to do anything about racial injustice and about economic inequality and about climate change, the great linked issues of our time, we're going to have to do all kinds of things. We're going to have to organize, we're going to have to march, we're going to have to protest, there's going to be civil disobedience. A shout out tonight to those brave people, our brothers and sisters on the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation in the Dakotas, standing up against the Dakota Access Pipeline. They are real heroes. So we're going to have to do all those kind of work. But on even-numbered years, when it turns toward autumn, one of our jobs is to elect champions, okay? Not just people who will vote the right way most of the time, but people who will be champions. When we're in the trenches, when we're fighting desperately to win a battle like the Keystone Pipeline, these champions are absolutely crucial. That's what Bernie's done for decades, okay? Long before he made his first run for the presidency, he was there in the Senate and in the House fighting like crazy. We need many, many Bernies, and we need them at every level of our political system, from the very local to the very national. So that's what tonight's about. You're going to be meeting and hearing about some of these people, some of the 50 or 100 champions that are going up on the Our Revolution website. And my great privilege is to introduce just one of them, my neighbor here in Vermont, Mari Cordes, who's a union activist. Mari's a union activist, she's a nurse, and she's the next state representative from the fighting 4th District in Addison County. Mari, many thanks.
I am so honored to be here tonight and to have worked with Bernie Sanders for a number of years in Vermont as a union activist and most recently as a volunteer during his historic presidential campaign over the last year and a half. My story is like so many of yours out there. I work hard at my job as a nurse, and I was proud to help organize our union at my hospital, where we were able to negotiate an impressive first contract that respected nurses and continues to improve the quality of care for our patients. But over the years, I have become increasingly frustrated that too many politicians didn't stand up and fight for the ordinary person. So when Bernie ran for president, I knew that his campaign would be an opportunity to show the country that politics can be done differently, that people can run for office and stand up to big money interests and fight for the interests of ordinary people, and that our collective voices and wisdom as people who care deeply about this country and the planet at this critical point in history must be heard. Bernie's campaign has shown without a doubt that there is a strong desire on the part of ordinary Americans to have a progressive economic agenda, and that you can gain popular support not by moving to the center, but by putting forward bold, progressive policies that deal with the underlying problem of economic inequity. That proposals like raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour and supporting free tuition at public colleges and universities and calling on the very rich and large corporations to pay their share are ideas that American people are ready to support. He also proved that you don't have to rely on big money to fund your campaigns, that you can go to the people and raise small contributions, $27 at a time, and have a success raising enough money to be competitive. Bernie's campaign ignited a fire in this country that told me that as someone with bold progressive principles, I was right to run for office. And I am proud to say that 2 weeks ago, as a progressive Democrat, I won the Democratic primary for the state legislature in my Vermont legislative district. And as I went door to door, I witnessed the vibrant hope for transformational politics, because so many have Bernie's vision for social justice close to their heart, just as I do. I also want to thank an amazing organization that I'm a founding member of, and that's Rights and Democracy. And Rights and Democracy is moving forward, helping the people's movement in Vermont and New Hampshire. And without their assistance was critical for my campaign and many other campaigns. But like all of you, I know there is so much more to be done to realize the progressive changes that we all support. And so it gives me a great deal of pride to introduce our inspiration, United States Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you. Whoa. Well, it is nice to be home. Let me begin by thanking the many hundreds of Vermonters who are here and across the street in our senior center for coming out tonight. And let me thank the tens of thousands of people who are watching this live stream in every state of the country. And let me say hello to my family and my wife Jane and my kids for being here as well. Mostly, I want to thank everybody who is here and who is watching the program for your help on the presidential campaign that we just completed. For those who know me well, they know it is not my personality to look backwards. I always kind of want to look forward. But I do think it is important to say a few words about what we accomplished together, because by understanding what we accomplished, we will know where we have to go in the future. As I have said a million times, and what I believe in the essence of my soul, is that real change never ever takes place from the top on down. It's not some guy signing a bill. It always takes place from the bottom on up, when millions of people come together and demand fundamental change in the country. And I want you all to remember your history. Remember the struggle of millions of American workers to stand up and fight for trade unionism, to fight to end child labor, and the other terrible things that were happening in workplaces all over this country. Think back about the civil rights movement and the millions of people who engaged in that struggle, some of whom were killed, some of whom were beaten, some of whom went to jail, to create a country in which all people have the right to vote, have equal opportunity, a country in which we abolish racism. Think about the struggles of the women's movement, and remember that 100 years ago, no time at all from an historical perspective, 100 years ago today, women did not have the right to vote. They did not have the right to get the education or the jobs they wanted and deserved. 100 years ago. But women stood up all across this country and with their male allies said very loudly and clearly that in this country, women will not be second-class citizens. Bill McKibben, and I want to thank Bill and Marie Murray for their introductions. I think all of you know that Bill McKibben, our fellow Vermonter, is not only one of the important environmental leaders in our country, he is one of the important environmental leaders in the world in the fight to combat climate change, which in my view is one of the great global crises facing this planet. And Bill will be the first person to tell you that real change in the environmental movement will only come about when not only in this country, but all over this world, people stand up and they tell the fossil fuel industry, sorry, your short-term profits are not more important than the future of our planet. And as Vermonters, we are all proud of the leading role that our small state has played in the fight for gay marriage and gay rights in general. But that struggle took place and succeeded to a significant degree because once again, all over this country, the gay community and their straight allies said that in America, people must have the right to be able to love whoever they want, regardless of their gender. Millions of people engaged in that struggle. Now that is how change in this country has always taken place. And in my view, that is how change will always take place. Now, our campaign, as you all know, took on virtually the entire Democratic Party establishment. And I mean the entire Democratic establishment. And I want you all, because this is what grassroots success is about, I want you to think about this. We went into states where the senators were opposed to us, governor was opposed to us, virtually everybody in the legislature was opposed to us, and in some states we won, and we won those states with landslide victories. Our campaign received over 13 million votes. We won 22 states, and we lost a few by a hair. We ended up with about 1,900 pledged delegates at the Democratic National Convention. That is 46% of the total. On the other hand, we didn't do quite as well with the superdelegates. But that's another story on something we will be dealing with in the future. And here is what I think is most important. We won overwhelming support in, I believe, every state in this country where we competed from young people 45 years of age and younger. And by the end of the campaign, we were winning good majorities, not only from white young people, but from Black youth, Latino youth, Asian American youth, Native American youth, all across the board. Now, here is the importance of that. The importance of that is that when you capture by large majorities the young people of this country, it means that our ideas, our vision is the future of this country. Further, as many of you know, we helped write the strongest and most progressive democratic platform in the history of the United States of America. While we did not get everything we wanted, it is fair to say that that document is an extremely progressive document. And let me also say this. If anybody thinks that that document and what is in that platform is simply going to be resting on a shelf somewhere, accumulating dust, they are very mistaken. We are going to make bring that platform alive and make it the blueprint for moving the Democrats forward in Congress and all across this country. And here is what we have also accomplished, and I want everybody involved in the campaign and who supported us to take enormous pride in this accomplishment. We changed the conversation regarding the possibilities of our country. That is what we changed. We redefined what the vision and the future of our country should be. And that is no small thing. And what our campaign showed, making the establishment very, very unhappy. And that is a good thing. What our campaign showed the world is that the American people are prepared to stand up to a corrupt campaign finance system, a rigged economy, a broken criminal justice system, and the global threat posed by the fossil fuel industry that is destroying our planet through their carbon emissions. Let me just give you just a few concrete examples of how we have changed how the American people think and what their views about the future should be. All of you remember that just a few years ago, if somebody were to jump up and say, you know, I think that given the crisis in student debt in this country, given the crisis in the lack of affordability for college, you know, I think that we should make public colleges and universities tuition free. If somebody had said that 2-3 years ago, what somebody else would have responded is, you're crazy. That's too radical for the United States of America. Making public colleges and universities tuition free will not happen in our lifetime. Well, guess what? As of today, there are Democratic candidates all over this country running for the Senate, running for the House. And you know what they're campaigning on? Making public colleges and universities tuition free. And also dealing with the horrific situation facing millions of Americans in terms of outrageously high student debt. That is now mainstream. Now, I was able to work with Secretary Clinton, didn't get her 100% on board, but she is now out there talking about a proposal to make public colleges and universities tuition free for every family in America earning less than $125,000 a year, 83% of our population. You know what? That is a major step forward. Let me give you another example of what we accomplished, not alone. It wasn't only us, great organizations all over the country working with us, working independently. If anybody in this room 5 years ago, not a long time ago, had said, you know, Bernie, I think we should raise the minimum wage, you know, above the starvation minimum wage of $7.25 to $15 an hour. If anyone had said that, everybody else would have said, $15 an hour? You're out of your mind. You want to more than double the minimum wage. Can't be done. Too radical. Impossible. Well, guess what? Right now, all across this country, we have cities and towns passing legislation for $15 an hour, and you have Democratic candidates all over this country running on a platform of raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And think about what that will mean for millions of workers today. During this campaign, I talked to the people working at McDonald's, working at Burger King, making $7.25 an hour. I'll never forget meeting a woman in Nevada, a single mom, with tears streaming down her eyes saying, Bernie, I don't know how my daughter and I are going to make it on the $10.45 an hour that I make. We raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Millions of Americans will no longer be living in poverty. Single mothers will be living in dignity. And that is what we've got to do. Now, in terms of how far we have driven the debate and changed the mindset of millions of people, I want you to consider this. There was a poll that came out just last week, new poll, and it said that 54% of Republicans now understand that in order to combat income and wealth inequality, people earning more than $250,000 a year should be asked to pay more in taxes. Those are Republicans. So while their leadership talks about huge tax breaks for billionaires, Republicans at the rank and file level, working people who are Republicans, understand that we cannot continue going forward with the kind of grotesque level of income and wealth inequality that we have. That's Republicans. Let me give you another example of what we've accomplished. 3-4 years ago, as some of you will recall, there was a massive effort led by some Wall Street billionaires, virtually all the Republicans and some Democrats, who said, you know, we're going to have to cut Social Security. That's what we're going to have to do. Cut Social Security for the elderly, for the disabled. And some of us in the Senate and some of the House came together and you said, over our dead bodies, you will cut Social Security. And we fought back and we worked with senior groups all over this country. And people don't know it, I do, that we were a half an inch away a few years ago from, in fact, passing legislation that would have cut Social Security. Very, very close. But we fought back. And now, guess what? No Democrats and actually fewer Republicans are talking about cutting Social Security. The debate now is about how much we will expand Social Security benefits. And a few months ago, I was very pleased when President Obama came on board and also indicated his support for expanding Social Security benefits. Let me give you another very concrete example of the kind of success we have had. As the campaign progressed, I talked more and more about a broken criminal justice system. A system which today has more people in jail in the United States of America, some 2.2 million people, than any other country on earth. 2.2 million people in jail. We're spending $80 billion a year locking up fellow Americans. And in a long criminal justice platform that we had, one point that we made is, and I'm proud to have been the very first candidate to make this point, others came on board, I was the first. And the point that we made was that corporations should not be making a profit by locking up fellow Americans. In other words, we have got to put an end to private prisons and private detention centers. Some of you may have heard just last week, the U.S. Department of Justice announced that it was moving away, was going to end its relationship with private prisons in this country. And Congressman Raul Grijalva of Arizona and I are working very hard to have that same principle applied to detention centers as well. As all of you know, our campaign fought the fight to have the United States join the rest of the industrialized world and guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child as a right, as a right. It is totally absurd that we end up spending almost twice as much per capita on health care as do the people of any other country, at the same time as 28 million Americans still have no health insurance, and 38 million, including many I'm sure in this room, who are underinsured with high deductibles and high copayments. Further, we campaigned very hard on the need to end the outrageous greed of the pharmaceutical industry an industry where the top 5 drug companies last year made $50 billion in profit at the same time as 1 out of 5 Americans who go to their doctor and get a prescription cannot afford to fill that prescription. That is, you talk about crazy. Talk about crazy. A system that we have today allows people to go to the doctor because they are sick, they get a diagnosis, they can't afford to buy the medicine their doctor prescribes. I have talked to seniors in Vermont and all over this country who cut their pills, prescription drug pills, in half because they don't have the money to afford the outrageously high prices that they have to pay. All right, that's what we campaigned on. Now, the truth is, Secretary Clinton does not support a Medicare for all single-payer system. That's the fact. But what we did end up coming to an agreement on, which I think is a significant step forward, is she is now on record and is talking about and prepared to fight for doubling the funding for community health centers all over this country. Doubling the funding because of the many crises that we face in healthcare. One of them is that our primary healthcare system is a total disaster. People cannot find a doctor that they can afford to go to in some locations in this country. I was in a county in Mississippi. There are no doctors. So by doubling funding for community health centers, which now provide healthcare access for healthcare, dental care, low-cost prescription drugs, and very importantly, mental health counseling, doubling that, we will, and I'm going to push this very hard, create virtually universal primary health care in America. Every person, regardless of income, will be able to at least get into a doctor's office. That's no small thing. And Secretary Clinton agreed with me that it is important to substantially increase funding for the National Health Service Corps. And that is the federal government which provides debt relief for those doctors and dentists and nurses and psychologists and medical personnel who are prepared to serve in underserved areas. Triple funding for that. So I don't want to suggest to you that this is a solution to the healthcare crisis. It's not. In my view, Medicare for all single payer is where we have got to be. But if we can double funding for community health centers, it will be an important step forward. Let me touch on another issue of great importance to the people of this country. As somebody, as a former congressman, now a senator, who voted against every major trade agreement, from NAFTA to CAFTA to permanent normal trade relations with China, to fast track for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, I am pleased to tell you that we are seeing a real change in the attitude of the American people toward our disastrous trade policies. In the not-so-distant past, a majority of Americans thought that our trade agreements had resulted in positive changes. Today, that is not the case. And the American people understand that we have lost millions of decent-paying jobs as corporations shut down in the United States, in Vermont, and all over this country, and run to cheap labor countries all over the world. Polls now show that a majority of the American people understand that we need real change in our trade policy. Now, I have worked with President Obama over the years on a number of issues, and he's a friend of mine. But on the issue of the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, his support, very strong support for that proposal is dead wrong. I intend to work with trade unions all over this country, environmental groups all over this country, religious groups all over this country, to do everything that I can as Vermont Senator to defeat the TPP if it comes up in Congress in the lame duck session. Now, the TPP, as is always the case, is supported by Wall Street. It is supported by corporate America. It is supported by all of the big money issues. But I believe that if we stand together, we can, in fact, defeat it if and when it comes up in the lame duck session. And let me just say a few words about this issue, and I want to say a few words about it because it often does not get a lot of attention on the media, in the media. It's a study done, I think, a year ago, which showed that in television, trade issues are almost never, ever talked about. What the TPP is about, and what previous trade agreements were about, are forcing American workers to compete against people who make pennies an hour. It is about corporations who go from country to country in search of the cheapest possible labor they can find. Our disastrous trade policies have cost us millions of good-paying jobs, and it is part of the race to the bottom. Instead of uplifting people all over the world, people are becoming poorer. Also within the TPP, there is a provision called the Investor-State Dispute System. Anybody heard of that? Good. Not a sexy issue. It is of enormous importance. Unbelievably, what that provision says is that a foreign investor, i.e. a major multinational corporation, can go to an international tribunal made up of 3 corporate lawyers if they believe that their future profits were harmed as a result of a governmental decision. You follow what I'm saying? I mean, it is so crazy, it is hard to imagine. Right now, let me just give you a few examples of what that means in a very concrete sense. Right now, as you know, President Obama killed the Keystone Pipeline, which was the right thing to do. And he did it, and many of us urged him to do it. I think I was the very first senator out there in opposition to the pipeline. He did it because he understood that excavating and transporting some of the dirtiest fuel in the world would accelerate the crisis of climate change. So he did the right thing. But as a result of the investor-state dispute system in NAFTA, do you know what's happening right now? TransCanada, the owner of the Keystone Pipeline, is suing the taxpayers of the United States for $15 billion because they believe that decision impacted their future profits. Can you appreciate how insane that is? Now, you can argue, people can argue about the Keystone Pipeline. Right? Most of us are opposed to it, and we applauded the president for killing it. Others support it, and that's called democracy. We have different points of view. But the idea that a major multinational corporation can sue us for $15 billion because the president made the decision that he thought right tells you what trade agreements are all about. They are designed to protect corporate profits, and to hell with the environment, human rights, healthcare, or the needs of the people. And that is why the TPP has got to be defeated. And let me just tell you one other example. I know you're going to think that I'm not telling you the truth because this is so insane, but it is true. Uruguay, a tiny, tiny, tiny country in Latin America. They elected a president who was an oncologist, some guy who's concerned about cancer. And what he did is put together a very strong anti-tobacco campaign. And among other things, what they did, which is, I believe, the right thing to do, because tobacco kills, what they did is had on the cigarette packages really ugly stuff about diseased lungs or diseased lips, you know, making it very clear that if anybody wanted to buy that package of cigarettes, they were endangering their health big time. That's what they did. And it was a successful campaign. Well, guess what happened? Philip Morris was very upset. They make money by poisoning children and people and creating cancer for those people. And Philip Morris was very upset that their profits were being impacted because they could no longer cause cancer to the people of Uruguay. And they went to and are there right now in an international tribunal, telling that tribunal that because the government of Uruguay tried to protect their children from getting cancer, they were losing profits and that they were entitled to a settlement from Uruguay. Can you believe how crazy that is? It is. It is exactly criminal. And that is why we have got to defeat the TPP, and it is why we have got to rethink trade policies in this country to make sure that they work for working people here, for poor people all over the world, and not just the CEOs of large multinational corporations. Now, having said all of that, let me say something else, and that is tonight, I think the question on the minds of a whole lot of people is, okay, we ran a great campaign, we woke up the American people, but where do we go from here? And that's kind of what tonight is about. So tonight I want to introduce you to a new independent nonprofit organization called Our Revolution, which is inspired by the historic Bernie 2016 presidential campaign. Over time, Our Revolution will involve hundreds of thousands of people. These are people who will be fighting at the grassroots level for changes in their local school boards, in their city councils, in their state legislatures, and in their representation in Washington. Not only that, they will be involved in major ballot items dealing with campaign finance issues, environmental issues, healthcare issues, labor issues, gender-related issues, and doing all that they can in every way to create an America based on the principles of economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. A new, very diverse board of strong, progressive men and women from across this country is now being put together under the leadership of Larry Cohn, somebody who worked very hard on my campaign. And Larry was, as some of you may know, for many years, the president of the Communication Workers of America, one of the largest and most progressive unions in this country. Jeff Weaver, the campaign manager of our presidential campaign, will be the president of the organization, and Shannon Jackson will be the executive director. Jeff has worked with me for most of the last 30 years since he first volunteered to work on a gubernatorial campaign that I was running way back in 1986. And I will never forget Jeff walking in the door. And he had really very, very good qualifications. He had just been expelled from Boston University for protesting the racist apartheid policies that then existed in South Africa. I thought those were pretty good qualifications for the job. Years later, Jeff became my chief of staff in Washington. And in fact, as Vermonters know, managed my first Senate campaign back in 2006. And Shannon Jackson did a great job as my assistant and point person throughout this campaign. Shannon gets things done, and I'm sure he's going to do a great job in his new position. Now, as a United States Senator, I will not be directing or controlling our revolution, but I have the utmost confidence that this leadership team and the board being assembled shares the progressive values we all hold, and I expect very big things from them and from all of you who join with them to carry the political revolution forward. And let me, speaking only for myself, tell you what to me the political revolution means. And it means to me nothing less than the transforming of the United States of America, the transformation of our country into a society in which we will not continue to have a handful of billionaires controlling our economic, political, or media life. If you think back on the history of our country, you understand that this nation has never been about oligarchy. And we must, our generation, must never allow oligarchy to become the governing doctrine of our nation. As Americans, our goal must be to elect progressives at every level. And I want to mention just a few of the progressive candidates who our revolution will be supporting. And there will eventually be over 100 of them in every region of our country, candidates from the school board to the United States Senate. Vernon Miller, a Native American, is running for the school board in Nebraska. And let me tell you, we need hundreds of candidates all over this country to run for school board. So I wish Vernon the best of luck. Jane Kim is a member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, and she is running for the state Senate in California. By the way, their state Senate districts are like the equivalent of the entire state of Vermont. So it's not a small thing, you know. I campaigned with Kim when I was in San Francisco, and she will be a great addition to the California State Senate when she is elected. Mari Cordes, who we just heard from, our very own Mari. I think everybody knows Mari. I've known Mari for many years. She is a nurse, she is a trade unionist, and she is going to win her seat in Addison County. So we are very appreciative. Zephyr Teachout. Yeah, I think Zephyr grew up in Vermont, didn't she? Yeah. And she is now running in a very tough race for the U.S. Congress in New York State. And she will be taking on a very, very well-funded gentleman, somebody who just received a $500,000 check from a hedge fund manager. And we all look forward to seeing Zephyr in the United States Congress. Russ Feingold is an old friend of mine. Russ is a former United States Senator from Wisconsin, and if I have anything to say about it, Russ is going to be back in the United States Senate where he belongs. Now, I just mentioned these 5 names to give you a flavor, to give you an example of what we are trying to do. In fact, there are other candidates for Congress, other candidates for state legislature, the Senate and the House in various states that we are supporting. These are just 5 that I mentioned. But in fact, at the end of the day, as I understand it, our revolution will be supporting over 100 candidates. Now, in addition to candidates running for office, there are other issues out there that we've got to address, and that is we can shape governmental policy by supporting major ballot initiatives taking place in states throughout the United States. Not every state has statewide ballot initiatives. We don't here in Vermont, but many states do. There are about 125 statewide ballot initiatives coming up in November. As I understand it, our revolution will be focusing on 7 key initiatives, which are of enormous importance to the particular states involved, but also significant for the entire country. In my view, there is nothing more important that we can do as progressives than overturn the disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. Right now, right this moment as we speak, the Koch brothers, the second wealthiest family in America, extreme right-wing family, are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to make certain that the U.S. Senate and the House remain in Republican hands. In addition to that, especially given the assault on voting rights by Republican governors all over this country, we have got to move toward automatic voter registration. The simple truth should be that in America, if you are 18 years of age or older, you are registered to vote. End of discussion. In Alaska, in this election, there will be a proposal called Measure 1, which will bring 50,000 new people into the voter registration files in that state almost immediately. 50,000 for a small state like Alaska is a lot of people. That is the kind of effort we need to see succeed in Alaska and all across this country. We want more people participating in the political process. We want to make it easier for people to vote, not harder. So supporting this initiative in Alaska is a smart move, I think. In California, which is a little bit larger than Alaska, in California there is a Proposition 61, which will address one of the major healthcare crises facing this country, and that is, I mentioned earlier, the outrageous cost of prescription drugs. What California is proposing is that their state government not pay any more for prescription drugs than the Veterans Administration does. And the Veterans Administration pays less than almost anybody in America because they negotiate costs with the pharmaceutical industry. If that proposal can pass in California, and by the way, the pharmaceutical industry is gearing up to the tune of tens of millions of dollars to try to defeat that, because they know its significance. But I am glad to see that there is going to be a major effort to try to pass that important ballot item. In the state of Washington, there is a proposal that will be on the ballot that has the voters there going on record against Citizens United. And that is something that I think should be supported. Further, there is an important ballot initiative in Colorado which calls for a single-payer healthcare system. It is absurd, it is beyond belief that here in America we remain the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. If that proposal can win in Colorado, I believe that idea will spread around the country, and our revolution is, as I understand it, supporting that ballot item. And obviously, in the months and years to come, our revolution will be involved in one important fight after another. We have got to stand with our brothers and sisters all over this country in the fight to reform a broken criminal justice system and for comprehensive immigration reform, and also to end the injustices that are currently taking place against the Native American people all over this country. Shannon is going to come up in a moment and he will describe to you the enormous amount of work that has to be done to support these 100 plus candidates and the ballot items. And that's what Shannon is going to do in a second. But let me just conclude on a personal note. And I speak on behalf of Jane and my whole family in thanking all of you for the love and support you gave us all over this country. As I have said many times, election days come and go, but the struggle for justice continues. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for the honor of a lifetime being a part of your campaign and now stepping into my new role as Executive Director of Our Revolution. I'd also like to thank all of you here in person. This is an incredible turnout, and everyone across the United States, in all 50 states, in Puerto Rico. I appreciate the 2,600 house parties we had, the more than 40,000 people that have tuned in ahead of time, and the more than 200,000 people that tuned in on Facebook Live. Additionally, Free Speech TV has broadcast this live on their networks to millions of viewers all throughout the nation. So I would like a round of applause for them. It is critically important that we work together in these coming months and years to continue this struggle. Right now, I would appreciate if you, in your house parties, in this room, everyone at home takes out their cell phones and goes to ourrevolution.com/act. My apologies, that's ourrevolution.com/act, and fill out the form to continue to be involved. Communication is the most powerful tool democracy has. We have seen the strength of utilizing communication and organizing success all over the world, from the Arab Spring to Bernie 2016. And this is exactly what we want to use to continue to be connected with you. In a moment now, I will describe the ways we're going to move this forward, the direct action we're going to do, but I'd really appreciate if you could sign up at ourrevolution.com/act. By completing the form, we're going to be telling you about innovative ways to be involved with canvassing actions, whether this is for the progressive champions that some that the senator introduced during his speech, such as Vernon Davis, a Native American teacher in Nebraska who was Teacher of the Year and now is running for school board, or many others. We have David Zuckerman in the room tonight, who's running for Lieutenant Governor in Vermont. The entire field of candidates that Our Revolution will be endorsing will be slowly announced throughout the coming weeks and months up to Election Day, as we take into consideration the many factors that makes a progressive champion. Please go to our website and be involved and use this as a resource center. In addition to finding the candidates that we know and have seen along the campaign trail and appreciate their support and want to share that with you, we would appreciate your suggestions. So please stay in contact with us through the website and through our staff to make sure that we are aware of who in your community is worth endorsing. Secondly, one of the tools that we have always used and that we utilized well in the campaign was through the incredible volunteer activities. You, many of you in this room, many of you across the nation, excuse me, came out. We made millions of calls. We knocked on millions of doors, and it was because of our constant communication. We're going to be doing both direct action, calling Congress to have them take action on certain things, whether it's a TPP or it's bills in Congress or Medicare for all. We're going to be persuading them traditionally like we usually do by calling them directly. We're also going to do the reverse of that. During the campaign, we use the term feel the burn. So similar to that, the fire needs to be spread. We're going to call into communities and spread the word. So it's not just us and our passion that's progressing these causes, it's you and spreading it to your neighbors and people that aren't aware of the issues. We're also going to continue to utilize social media well. We're going to have innovative, effective social media campaigns, similar to the one we launched today about prescription drugs on Snapchat. Please sign up so we can work together to spread our messages far and wide. Additionally, on our website, we'll be telling you about rallies and national days of action so that we can, in the coming months, take down the TPP. Thank you very much. Sometimes it's important to play defense. In the coming month between now and October 1st, as the Senator described, the TPP will be up. We will have a complete plan of action that will involve phone calls, canvassing, spreading the word, and rallies and marches that will need to be spread everywhere. So please become involved. There is much left to do that we need to accomplish, and I believe that together we can do anything. As the Senator has commonly said in his speeches, when we come together, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. With our diverse board, who's active, and members of active social progressing communities themselves, they're going to help us stay true to our values and ensure this is an organization dedicated to supporting the millions of grassroots supporters and organizers, and we, together, will make incredible waves. In Senator Sanders' address, he listed many of the achievements over the past years. I truly believe this is just the beginning. With your help, we can grow this movement so that all levels of government, from school board up to Congress, hear our message and see it delivered. We can take down the TPP once and for all. We can rally behind the ballot initiatives that the Senator so gracefully put that range from Alaska to California to Maine. We need to get behind these issues, and this is where states have innovative solutions to the problems at hand, and they need our help to pass them. Finally, we can do this only if we come together. Campaigns end, revolutions endure. Please sign up at ourrevolution.com/act and be a part of our next chapter of the political revolution, our revolution. Thank you again. Thank you again. I look forward to the future we create together. And at this time, please join me in watching our final video of the evening, which has many of the key people who will be involved in our continued campaign. Thank you.
Hey y'all, I'm Kendrick Sampson.
This is Josh Fox.
This is Susan Sarandon.
I'm Nina Turner.
This is Bill McKibben, and this is Berkey the dog.
This is Congressman Keith Ellison.
Hi, this is Lucy Flores. This is Nomi Key-Konst.
With all this injustice in the world, a beautiful thing is happening.
I am joining Bernie and thousands of people across the country
in moving forward to further the political revolution.
Now the challenge is up to us.
A nosotros nos sobra la cooperación y la solidaridad.
We can change government.
In small towns, in big East Coast to West, North to South, everywhere.
It's our time.
Our work is not done.
We're just getting started.
And we need you. You can join our revolution.
Our revolution.
Our revolution.
Our revolution.
Our revolution.
Say it with me now.
Our revolution continues.
We need you all to do some very important things. Each and every person in this room, you are a part of making the political revolution real for your children and your children and your children and my children.
We are coming together, black and white, red and brown, working people of all colors to say we want our country back.
And we need you, all of you, to be a part of this. Every single one of us as Americans, we're going to change this country. We make our history right here this moment.
Join us and be that change at ourrevolution.com/act.
Sign up to volunteer.
Únete al movimiento.
Continue to push real progressive change.
I look forward to our journey together.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Not a lot of action in that room. I think it froze, actually. But unmute yourselves before you talk. That was the stream, folks. And that was conspicuous in its absence of she that shall not be mentioned.
I thought she was mentioned, though.
Well, she was mentioned in the context that she's come along.
Right.
Or I guess more appropriately, he that may not be mentioned. There was no mention of stopping Donald Trump, really, that I noticed. I was a little hooked up into the technical end of it.
Right.
And Eric's got some people speaking, but initial reactions, guys. What do you think?
I'm pissed. This is frankly, I think what Brent and I were talking about earlier, what we were afraid of having happen, was that it would just be no teeth, and it really sounds like it's setting up to you all. We're going to pick progressive candidates, but what do you mean by progressive candidates? What do you mean by you're going to go into communities and you're going to ask people, well, hey, tell me who's the most progressive candidate in your race? Well, the most progressive candidate in that manner is going to be the one that's the best funded, because then you have the resources to tell people, hey, go to this website and get me an endorsement. I don't see it as really being revolutionary at all. I think it's the status quo with Bernie's name slapped on it. It really... I'm incredibly disappointed.
I'm just bored. That was really, really boring. That was so hard to actually like. I don't know if anyone else felt like it was just the first two speakers were okay, whatever, warm up the crowd.
Oh, but even Rosario Dawson would have been more exciting than those three. I mean, Bill McKibben. Come on, this is near-term human extinction, man. Climate crisis. He wasn't awake at all. And
I think everyone's just tired. Like, everyone is so tired. And Bernie's speech was so sad to me. It was like watching someone who, like, is finally trying to be in on a joke that has been made on them for the past few years. Like they're trying to be a part of that joke now. And it's just sad. It was hard to watch. It was a little hard to watch.
It was very it was a lot of his rehashed platform, and he was like emphatically trying to get us to believe that the platform is more than just a piece of paper and a pile of ideas. But one of the things I said in YouTube was that nothing he has said I have heard that Hillary Clinton is going to follow up on.
Oh yeah, I mean, here's some of the reaction I got on my Facebook. LOL, did a public option just turn into, quote, doubling community health center funding? Bernie Sanders, wag the dog. Follow-ups to that. I'm done with him as of tonight. I'm disappointed this is a watered-down version of his stump speech and a Clinton endorsement. No shout-out for Tim Canova. Disgusting. He's probably been forbidden now that Hillary has a hand picture. I'm organizing a protest against this and talk about lowering the bar. These are live reactions as people were getting on Facebook and talking about the way they were seeing Bernie Sanders' speech go. And it was more, this is supposed to energize people and get people out to, let's go knock on doors. And it just killed all the momentum that he had. I said it in the pre-show. I feel like if, things go the way they did, then the grassroots movement is going to wither and die because there's nothing for it now.
I don't know. I think that in the end, this kind of thing can be another revitalization of the grassroots movement, just not in the way that he intended. Like now the grassroots movement has an enemy in Bernie, which I think is sad. It's like he's a fallen idol. He's martyred himself for the cause, whatever that cause may be, and because only God knows.
So, yeah, kind of the fallen soldier. I don't know if it's necessarily an enemy to the progressive cause, but, I think he goes pretty much back to where he was in an ally, I would think, in the Senate, which is, I think, his emphasis was more that. Is like, hey, in the Senate, I'm going to make sure that this is what's going to happen. I don't know, an enemy, an ally, maybe, but I think he pretty much resets it. And hopefully a lot of people aren't reacting like that. I mean, I can understand, even though we're leaderless, as it were, we don't need a leader. We can create this movement, with our own momentum. It is up to us, as Jill Stein would say, not to bring Jill Stein into this, but there are other options, and we don't have to vote for either president, if we want to make that statement. But Tim Canova is not happy. It's true, and this is all sort of all news to us, and this, we knew there was rancor within this new organization, or at least it had started a little bit, at least within Bernie's organization, back before California, and I'm sure before that. But when the TV strategy was used in California, one of the staffers quit because they wanted to go more in the digital realm, and
just would have gotten votes.
Yeah. So, and there's questions around that too, and we can dig a little deeper into that. I mean, there's questions around media buys, and now Jeff Weaver, Bernie's longtime associate in many campaigns, is running this organization, and this is what happened when half the staff quit, the other half strongly disagreed with this decision, and hopefully it doesn't implode.
Well, here's my question. Let's say all three of us are running for office, right? Let's say, Dave, you've got the funding for, you're the mainstream candidate, even though I don't think you're very mainstream, nor do I think you're going to be that corporate guy, but just for this analogy, you're going to play our corporate jerk real quick, okay? So you've got the backing. You've got the backing. Yeah, you do, my friend. You've got the backing, though, right? You've got all this funding. Brandon, you're gonna be an independent, and I'll run as a Green Party candidate, right? We're all running for one seat, and we're all really counting on this Our Revolution endorsement to say, well, this is the most progressive candidate. Brandon and I won't have as much money as you do, Dave, to sit up here and tell people, go say I'm the most progressive candidate. Even if you are further to the right than Brandon and I, if you have enough money to get people to say you're not. And that's the fear that I have with this, is that it's just going to be another endorsement for the already well-funded corporate candidates, and the corruption cycle continues. And that's what I foresee happening at a certain level, especially with, Jeff Weaver coming in and already having actual progressive staffers say, I don't want to be a part of anything you're doing. That's scary to me as a progressive, as someone who plans to run for office. that endorsement could have been a big deal for someone like myself who wants to run for city council, but with, having to contend with moneyed candidates and the fact that it's supposed to be grassroots, which we know the Dems fake by paying for grassroots momentum. I'm totally disillusioned right now, and I'm hoping that things get better, but I'm not sure they will.
Well, here's what I would say. It was basically the same speech he's been giving for a while now, but this is the first time we're hearing it post DNC. And prior to the DNC, there was a sense of hope and substance and something novel and like true meaning and change behind it. But now that we've seen an endorsement of Hillary Clinton, this sort of, half-hearted promise that she's going to do the things that, maybe that she said she would, kind of almost, and this dialing back of some of the rhetoric just so, he can hedge that bet. And when she doubles funding to Planned Parenthood and urgent care centers, that's the new public option, I guess, guys. Great, it's great, but now everything he's saying is it's kind of substance. It's kind of without substance. It feels like it's without substance because we know it to not be what's going to happen now. If that makes any sense. So I feel like it's the same speech, but the context is so much different that it just feels different. It comes across. It just feels less progressive because we know
I'm not inspired at all. I mean, it could have been anybody really that got up there and said what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't really a pledge to fight for anything. It was just a list of things that are wrong at this point. That's what it felt like, a list of things that are wrong with the country. And
then no one has any faith that the establishment candidates are going to change, go forward with any of that. I mean, they keep throwing us bones, right? They threw us Obama, and they threw us Bernie. Now they threw us the platform. It's
the most progressive platform.
The most progressive platform, right? What did the socialists say early on? It's like, he's not running for revolution. He's running to keep revolution from happening. So, it's, you just give people a little bit more and a little bit more, and the status quo becomes, the status quo. I mean, all the status quo people they're like, oh, okay, well, whatever. Now you had your party. And
right.
Yeah, it's the game. The status quo progressives who for them, the suffering of the vast majority of people is an academic or media pursuit as opposed to anything that personally touches their lives. They just can't understand why people are upset by this. They're like, oh, you got stuff in the platform. You got something. And I mean, I don't think he's an enemy. I think that if nothing else, he's devalued himself and he's devalued a lot of progressive rhetoric by aligning with Hillary Clinton. But a lot of people have done that. Elizabeth Warren has done that. Congressman Keith Ellison has done that. A lot of people have leveraged everything that they had to make this Clinton dynasty happen, and I just cannot understand why for the life of me. If you're not in it for the money, what could possibly be the reason? Other than you just don't see it. You just don't see you understand progressivism. Again, I got the academic thing, but you just don't understand what it means to people's lives the way you should.
The way I understand what Senator Sanders has done is that in the Senate, if he's able to get actual progressives elected as his colleagues in the Senate and in the House, then he may feel, and I think a lot of progressives are holding on to this hope that if that were to happen, then by some miracle, if we can get some actual progressive legislation passed through Congress, Hillary Clinton would not be able to, veto it. She would be forced to go along with it, and that may be how he plans to hold her accountable. I don't necessarily agree with that approach. I think that's too optimistic, frankly. I don't think there's any way to really keep Clinton accountable. But, I mean, let's look at the backlash. Now, mind you, I don't consider Senator Sanders an enemy. But a lot of progressives do. A lot of progressives have got this mindset now that either you're with us or rather you're with me and my idea of what progressivism is or you're against us, as opposed to building these kind of coalition movements together. I think Bernie Sanders is an absolutely amazing ally to have. I think he's going to do great work in the Senate. And I think the idea of our revolution is sound. I think the idea of really endorsing truly progressive candidates is something that has to be done. I just don't see how it's implemented.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen with this particular organization. I think this is going to be, I think this is going to be Bernie Sanders using his progressive, like, street cred to give it to some lefter-leaning establishment Dem candidates. To, like, give them the stamp of approval, even if they're not the best thing. And as far as, making enemies out of potential friends, or if you're not with us, you're against us, I don't necessarily succumb to that mentality all the time, but I think it's worth mentioning that's the establishment position all the time. Like, if you're not with us, we're going to marginalize you. Like, if you're not with us, we're going to make it legitimate to direct violence against you, or to bully you, or to minimize your concerns. So at a certain point, I guess this goes to my disagreement with Bernie Sanders, the Sanders primary campaign, not motivation, but what's the word I'm looking for? Strategy. In that, like, at a certain point, you have to fight fire with fire. Like, at a certain point, you have to say, you have to draw a line and say, like, we can't be reasonable people in unreasonable times, and we can't be trying to meet people in the middle ground. Like, we have to say, as progressives, we stand by our ideology. If you want us, you come get us. We're not about compromising anymore. Like that, I think that's been the sort of myth of what progressivism should be. Like, we should be about compromise. Let's compromise with everybody to get a little bit of what we want, and that's how we move forward. It's like, no, I think that at a certain point, like, I want real progressive ideological, stances made. Like, no more illegal drone wars, no more fracking. I like this is not thing that I'm willing to negotiate on with people who are not on my side. And if you're not on my side, if you're trying to push some sort of, well, can we have a little illegal drone war? It's like, no, like you're against me, because you don't understand that this is like this is a binary thing for us. The same way for a lot of people, Wall Street money, or like they're trying to put nuance where there shouldn't be any. So for me, I think that it's time for progressivism to say, no, we are drawing hard lines in the sand. Like, no more legal drone war, no more drug war, no more prisons no for-profit prisons, no more health insurance, basically pyramid schemes. Like, we need to be rigid in our ideology at a certain point. If that makes any sense. Like, I know the new thing is now adults compromise. No, that's nonsense. Adults stand for something. It's like what Captain America said. You gotta be willing to stand up against the world and say, you're wrong. It's like, you're wrong. If you think that we should be engaged in illegal drone warfare because, like, governmental inertia and the president can't turn the boat too fast, or it crashes into an iceberg or some nonsense, then you're wrong. You have no empathy. It's like James Baldwin has said, you turn into a monster. You are a literal monster if you can't understand why it's wrong. And I can't pretend like it's something different anymore, if that makes any sense. Like, I can't pretend
this is voting for the lesser evil thing that we've been, that Jill Stein brings up, that we've been led into over the years and years, over all these elections. That's always been, oh well, they're the same, but this one's not as bad as the other one. So that has led us to this point where it's all blown up in our faces. But and the folks on YouTube are basically in agreement. It's not about Bernie Sanders. And you're saying the same thing, I think, is that it's about the issues. It's about going forward with a robust opposition, which came up on one show. And that's really what we need to have as progressives. And it's what we've always done. It's what we've done before. We didn't have the mainstream media before. We didn't have the politicians. Hopefully more people have been, stay woke, but, and we can do it without necessarily, a leader. I mean, Jill Stein is great. Their platform is awesome as well, but the idea that she, or even Gary Johnson, although he's doing better in the polls, is really going to make any kind of an impact, other than maybe spoiling for Donald Trump in some of those former red states that are turning purple, and locking in Hillary Clinton. We need to formulate our plan for after November. and try to support these down ballot elections, these down ballot tickets. And he talked a good game about where this they're going to support 100 candidates. Okay, well, let's start with the most high profile one, Tim Canova, and see if he wants some of that money.
Right. I mean, you'd think that with as much clout and influence as Bernie Sanders has, that this would have people chomping at the bit to be endorsed by Our Revolution and by brand new Congress. But I don't think you're going to see, lines stretched around the proverbial block. I think it's going to be sparse and far and few between. I love how they mentioned, well, we want candidates for school board, and they brought up, I think, maybe one or two candidates actually running for a school board. I think it's going to be a lot of a dog and pony show about getting real down ballot people there. You might have your token school board or your token city council, but you're going to see mostly Congress. You're going to see mostly Congress. You're going to see mostly people running for the House and Senate. When in reality, if we're going to actually get things to change, if we're actually going to challenge this two-party system in any real meaningful way, you have to do it from the bottom up. You have to actually start endorsing candidates running in local elections. You have to help them out. Those of us that are able to run, I think, should do so. I think if you're not able to run, but you're able to volunteer for a campaign for someone you feel is really, truly progressive, I think that's a better idea than just hoping that our revolution comes through and does what they say they're going to do. When really, what actual promise do I have that they're going to do a damn thing?
Well, I mean, I agree, but I think that not necessarily it can only take place at the grassroots level. I think it has to take place at various levels. First, what I was talking about earlier was taking place at the personal level, being vocal and unmoved and unshakable in your progressivism. Being willing to call people out for being bad leftists. This is not a game anymore. And, we can't play this sort of rhetorical game where we hold people's feet to the fire in the aftermath of the fires they caused. It's like it needs to be, I'm a progressive, here's what I want, here's how you get my vote. If you don't do it, you don't get it. And I'm going to go and tell people how shitty you are at being a progressive. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to, or I'm going to run against you. But at the same time, we have to get money out of politics. Grassroots, money out of politics. That's because at a certain point, money is trickling down to the grassroots level, and $10,000 goes a long way in a school board election.
Yes.
$10,000 from PepsiCo. People don't notice under ESSA, and a lot of weird things happen under ESSA, but PepsiCo is funneling money into school districts all over America in order to have health education change to reflect a more Pepsi-friendly health education provided by Pepsi and Nestle, and that's a consequence of money just being allowed to flow into the public sector from the private sector unmolested by any sort of regulation. They just get to do what they want, and so I think money out of politics is more important than a grassroots revolution. We need there has to be a concerted effort to stop money from flowing so unhampered into our election.
I agree.
At all levels.
And I agree. And again, I go back to the Port Commissioner of Olympia and having, tens of thousands of dollars come from overseas into a small rural community's election to decide who's going to be the Port Commissioner. I mean, if I run for city council, I guarantee you $10,000 in my campaign coffers would do amazing work and pretty well fund my campaign and give me a huge edge against people that I'm running against. I mean, I agree with you absolutely. On all levels, I think you do have to make a personal commitment. We see it a lot today in what's being called call-out culture, and some people have an issue with it, others don't. I don't particularly have a problem with call-out culture. If I'm doing something shitty, tell me. So that way I can change my behavior. Now, not everyone is going to react that way. Not everyone, that's just to be expected. But I think if we're going to make any real progress, it starts with saying, hey, guess what? That, drone bombing children, not acceptable for all of them.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I was going to say absolutely. And I think, part of call-out culture needs to be calling out our friends and, not only our friends as progressive, progressive politicians as our friends, but just our friends at the personal level. That's where politics begins. With your social group, with your friend circle, with your PTA meeting, with all these little groups that you belong to, where you don't think politics influences this stuff. But no, I'm tired of people who treat $27 like it's just not a lot of money. I've been in places in my life where $27 would make the difference between eating and not eating. And for people who, there are some people out there who are, chastising Bernie Sanders supporters for being childish, or Bernie or Buzzfeed for being childish, who for them $27 never meant anything in their entire goddamn life. And that's what I mean. Like, this is not a game for some people, but for the people who are in control of our media, both, and I hate to say it, both in the mainstream level, but a good portion of progressive pundits, popular progressive pundits, are like, for them this is a game. Like, for them this is a eccentricity of the system. It's fun. And, they like politics. I like politics. I don't like politics. I don't like talking about this shit. I'm tired of talking about this. I'm tired of talking about illegal drone wars. But this is not a game. This is no longer a game.
Well, we have to keep talking about it, Brandon. And
we have to stop it. That's what we have to do.
And we've just been joined by Eric Miller in Olympia, Washington. He's been at a watch party. Eric, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, and I'm actually here with Tamborine Borelli. And so I wanted to get her on real quick to talk about how she felt about the Our Revolution tonight from her viewpoint. So
the stage is yours, my friend. Go for it.
You're on. You're good to go. Here's an earbud for you.
Okay. Hey guys. I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Well, we're doing okay. We're hanging. We're actually kind of a little down. We're all sort of a little melancholy with what's going on, and we've been talking about a lot of the chatters on the YouTube are really trying to get over the leaderlessness of this movement now, and that's really about us. It's about the issues and moving forward with a really, a robust opposition of the status quo, which is really what's going to continue, and that's kind of what we got from this. Your thoughts?
Yes, I agree. A lot of the times you can have your finger on the pulse by how you feel about a thing, because that really is, most of the times it's the truth. You can say one thing, but when you feel another, the feeling, how you feel in your heart is the truth. And I've been feeling that feeling ever since the day that Bernie Sanders, who is the one that ignited the passion within me, and I'm sure everyone else who's watching, the day that he did whatever he had to do. Tonight, I'm feeling a little lackluster. I don't know how many people know, but in regard to the fact that it was said that Jeff Weaver was not going to be a part of this organization, and 8 out of the 13 staffers who were everything from programmers to main bloodline to this revolution, they were very adamant that he was not going to be associated with this organization. They did not agree with many things of how he ran the campaign, and also the fact his vision and where he wants to take this in conjunction with and associated with multinational corporations. It just does not, it is not the heart and soul of what ignited us in the first place. That is not a grassroots move to do that. So 8 out of those 13 walked out. The beautiful thing is that enough of us are awake, enough of us are taking responsibility for that vision, and no disrespect to Bernie, because for as long as I breathe on this planet, I will be forever indebted and grateful to that man for waking me up. But now, since we're awake, now what are we going to do? So what we're going to do, and many of us have different ways we're expressing that. We have a multi-coalition right now being organized for an anti-TPP write-in campaign, about 20 of us candidates. That more on that later, I'll give you details, but just to give you an insight that we're not going back to sleep. There is a day of action being planned. On another note, I'm working exclusively with Election Justice USA. I'm on their leadership team, and we are planning a nationwide day of action for election integrity to press all of the different counties within the states to go and move to a hand-counted paper ballot system that is accountable and never out of sight of the public view. If we don't do those steps, anything that we were excited about this revolution, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't matter who you vote for. We have to take care of that first and foremost. We have to make sure that our elections are free and fair and not tampered with. So in a nutshell, that's kind of everything that's going on in my mind and in my heart. But,
Let me unmute. A lot of response from folks in the YouTube. Tell us how they can find you. They want to know if you have a Twitter, and so they can stay in touch with you and the issues that you're passionate about and getting information about moving forward. You're right. I mean, I will always have respect for Bernie Sanders. I respected him before. I think his intentions were good. I think he looks as dejected and like a fallen soldier. He's basically tonight he said he's going to be that senator in where he was before. He's going to be that senator fighting for the causes, and to keep the mantle of progressivism in the Senate, which I suppose many of us felt that's where he was going to end up. Unable to really overcome the establishment. I think this whole thing took on a life of his own, similar to what the Trump experience has been for that side. And I think it surprised Bernie Sanders as well. And I think you're right about the Weaver selection. I think many people in this organization are it's like being punched in the stomach. The people that have been volunteering for this, it started early on, and I know you're right. People were very adamant about it. Lauren Steiner has mentioned it before. And hopefully it will be able to get beyond that and just focus really on the races and the candidates like you and Eric, and now Adair is going to be running, and really the people that he inspired, and really keeping that motivation going. And hopefully there'll be some money coming down from our revolution, maybe an endorsement or two. A little help for Tim Canova would be nice.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I think we're all kind of, yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to put a caveat in there that we all are coalescing together. All of the independents, whether it's the Green Party, the Libertarians, we all are going to join forces under an umbrella, and this is what we're working on now. It's a tad bit premature, but I just wanted to give people a little inspiration. The Progressive Independent Party is going to act as, are we still on?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, it went black. The Progressive Independent Party, what we are working towards is for that to be an umbrella of sorts. So every individual independent, whether they're green, whether they're libertarian, the 99%, whatever is popping up everywhere organically, we want to have a strong hub that can run independent candidates without the fear of the establishment duopoly. So that's in the works as well. It's just really important that we all know no one is going back to sleep, and there are avenues that we need as much help as possible because we are growing this thing from the bottom up. And it will be the truth. What Bernie always said, change always comes from the bottom up and not from the top down. So everyone, I encourage you, please reach out, because this is going to take all of us to really just lock arms and be on the front lines and make sure that this vision becomes a reality, and sooner than later.
Information, how can we get you?
Sure. So my Twitter is Tamborine, and that's TAMBORINE, the number 4, and then SEN, Sen. That was for my Senate campaign. Tamborine for Sen. That's the Twitter. And Facebook, it's, I'm going to change the name of it, but they can go on my Facebook page, Tamborine Borelli for State Senate. And we'll change that into the Write-In campaign. And please feel free to inbox me we want especially anyone who is inclined for leadership, organizational, anything that you have a talent for. We need it because it's going to take all of us together.
Well, you know, not to quote Jill Stein, but it's up to us. It's in our hands. It's in our hands. That's what she said.
It's in our hands, absolutely. And I appreciate the opportunity to express and to share with everyone what's going on. And you know, take heart, because it's not over. And literally, we've just begun. So we need all you warriors out there to saddle up and let's get this thing going.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tamborine. Thank you so much for your efforts, and keep up the good fight. We'll stay on top of your campaign and your issues.
Absolutely.
And you're welcome back anytime. So
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hand it over to Eric. I want to ask him a couple questions about this.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So, Mr. Miller.
Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Hey, bud.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing? Nice. Sort of a mellow crowd there during the live stream, but I think everybody was sort of feeling the same way, not really inspired necessarily.
Yeah, well, and another thing that kind of disappointed me, and I was afraid that this would happen, is it seems like maybe after Bernie Sanders endorsed "He Who Shall Not Be Named," it feels like there was a big millennial drop-off in terms of the excitement and the engagement. And that's one thing I really worried about. And I think tonight I kind of saw that, because usually these crowds in the events in my area were way more diversified, especially in terms of age. And so that was a little unique to me. And I really wish that the young people would stay engaged and get engaged, because this is our future that we're fighting for.
What? Let me. I'm just trying to think here. I'm trying to take it all in too, and it really is. It's almost like we've gone back to square one. You know, we're almost like we just reset the button, but hopefully there's enough energy in it now that we will continue. I mean, it was when Occupy started, it was very exciting, but it just didn't seem to keep going. You know, and we've seen this over and over and over again. And I think you could be really cynical and think that really this could be the end, you know. But just from the comments in the YouTube and what Tamborine was saying, is really maybe we just need to take this. This may be a downer, but we need to take it in the energy that we built over the last year and feed it into our campaigns and our issues. I know, you know, Lauren Steiner is doing that. And obviously Tamborine is doing that. I know Adair is even more inspired to run, and we have, you know, we're going to continue the revolution and continue to get the message out of third parties to try to break the corporate stranglehold on the debates and coverage of. But you know, money in politics. You know, everybody's talking about it or sort of glossing over it. Hillary Clinton, you know, yeah, I'm on board getting overturning Citizens United, but you know, let's look at the realities of the Supreme Court. If Garland gets the nod, if he gets the confirmation because they're afraid that Hillary Clinton's going to appoint somebody, you know, who knows? He's a corporatist. I don't see him necessarily overturning Citizens United. So getting the money out of politics, which is, we all agree, it's like Adair said, if we're going to have all three of us running, and somebody's got the money and somebody doesn't, how does the other people have any chance? So more thoughts, guys. Adair, any input?
Here's how I feel about it, and I want to draw a comment from the YouTube page from Diana Gonzalez, who had offered to, you know, donate money if I run, and I do plan to do so. But she's not in Olympia, Washington, and I want to say thank you for that offer. I really do truly appreciate it. But I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to start holding people accountable at the local level. I personally, if I run for office, if me holding office will not affect you, if you are not within the city of Olympia, if you are not able to vote for that election, I will not accept that money, because I do not feel that it's fair to those who my election would directly affect to take that money. It will only come from local sources. And for those of you who do not wish to run, before you support a candidate, if you go to one of their events, ask them, say, are you accepting money from local sources only if it's a local campaign, something like school board, something like city council? If it's a legislative district type thing, if they're running for state house, are you accepting money only from with the confines of our legislative district, and are you taking any corporate money? See if you can submit a resolution to your city councils, not bang down the doors of your state house representatives and senators if you are able to, and say, hey, I want to have a city law passed, a state law passed saying that within this area, campaigns are publicly financed. You have the power to go and do those kinds of things and start petitions like that here in Washington State. We're doing something to get rid of dark money. We have an initiative going around. It was mentioned in the Our Revolution talks to overturn Citizens United here in Washington State, a law for Washington State to help get rid of money in politics. That's the kind of things we have to do. And those running, you need to have integrity. You need to have integrity as a candidate to not sit up here and just say, yes, I know that money's something. I know that money will help out. But you need to have the integrity to represent your people to the fullest, and you cannot do that by taking money from corporate sources and from people outside of your state or legislative district, or if you're running for a local level, outside of your city. It's absolutely wrong, and you need to have that integrity.
Hear, hear. We're all on board. Diana Gonzalez in YouTube is ready to. I will send money to you if you run. You can be my new Bernie. So
you can send money to me. I don't have that integrity thing that Adair has. I just have progressive values. So if you send me your money, I can guarantee you I'll do progressive things with it.
So, okay, but you'll allow access to progressive people, right?
I'm just a different kind of person. I would just take the money and then do what I want, and I don't think that's how it works. Like I would just lie to Wall Street. I don't know why people don't do that. I would just lie, take their money, and then take it all, and then just have one really, really progressive term. I'm that person. It's oh yeah, absolutely.
If I'm getting elected, I want to do it with integrity. I want to represent what I say I'm going to represent. You say you never sell your soul, Brennan. You say you never sell your soul all at one time. You sell it piece by piece. Well, I don't want to sell my soul. I want to be the same person, from day one, the day my campaign starts, to the day I either win office and then make my way through and leave because I was not voted in again, or if I don't make it. I'm going to hold that integrity because I feel that's where it starts. We always talk about grassroots, and you said it starts within yourself. Well, candidates, grassroots integrity starts in you, and you are how we're going to get money out of politics. Just don't accept it.
I agree. I was just being flippant, but no. But I strongly believe in sometimes you need to be an ideologue. You need to to be a good politician, to be a good leader, or whatever you want to be, representative. Change maker, taste maker, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes you need to really truly believe you are the only person who can do the job. And I think that and you have to fight tooth and nail for it. And sometimes I look at Bernie and I wonder, did he believe that? Did he believe he would? And I feel like that he didn't. And at the end of the day, that kind of doubt, and it sounds bad, but he wasn't enough of a sociopath or a narcissist or an ideologue or a fundamentalist to fight tooth and nail for his regime or his place in the sun, and I'm not that person.
When it comes down to it, he is actually an incrementalist. He's not a radical, he's not a revolutionary. He's he has negotiated his way through the Senate with progressive values, but he does support the drone wars, Brandon. So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, Bernie Sanders is a real incrementalist. Hillary Clinton is not. Right. Clinton is a radical conservative.
Exactly. Yes, she's a radical. I was going to say yes. She's a radical conservative.
She's a radical conservative.
Well, listen, Brandon. I know you're really tired. You're on the East Coast, and we're on the West Coast, and this was an impromptu thing. We're going to try to do more and more breaking news and events like this, hopefully on a daily basis. We're going to start scheduling a regular newscast. About 15 minutes a day, and put in that breaking news that we're going to be grabbing. So we got a lot of exciting things planned here for Project Sanity coming up. We are definitely have something exciting happening at the end of September. So stay tuned. It's all in the works. We hope to have more information and can talk to you all about it tomorrow. But we have some very exciting things in the works for the end of September to coincide with the closed debates of the corporate parties. So we thought we'd all come together tonight to watch this stream, and I think it reached our low level of expectations. I don't think anybody was really. I think it passed the bar for me because he didn't go out and support Hillary Clinton to stop Donald Trump. That was like my bar. Yeah. If he didn't say that, I was going to keep the stream on. So right. We've really kind of known. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm going to make a comparison. I think it was infinitely worse. It wasn't as bad as I expected it to be, but it was way worse than the Green Party town hall.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
In terms of making me feel that kind of energy.
Right.
And because Jill Stein, she has that hunger in her eyes still.
That's
true.
She
has that sort of that righteous indignation that comes from like feeling you were wrong.
Yeah, we saw that. We saw that last summer in Bernie, but when he came out to endorse, I think California, when he made the wrong decision in California about the TV media, staff started to leave, and then when he lost California, that was it. It took all the wind out of his sails, and it is what it is. We move on. The struggle continues.
Yeah.
But
I mean, is it? Oh no,
no, I'm just. You're the one that said you were tired, dude.
Oh no. Yeah, but that's because he put me to sleep with that. With that sort of. No, but like I mean, I think that's the danger in being too much of a populist or taking populism too seriously. And that like once you feel like you're losing the kind of popular support, you just like maybe lack the energy. But I don't think populism doesn't necessarily have to be about popular support. And so you can be a populist and have very little actual support. I think that he should have just, dealt with the blows a little bit better and just like, I sometimes just go, I know what's best for you.
Right.
Like, I know what's best for this country. Like, even if you don't agree yet, you'll learn. You'll learn today. But that's just me.
All right. Well, we're going to take that as your final thoughts. Adair?
I think there's two kinds of people that we saw after this campaign season has ended. You saw the folks who are admittedly dejected right now and are feeling like, hey, this is, back to square one and I don't really want to keep fighting. And then there are those that are really just have become, if possible, even more inspired to go out and do things. And I feel that of those of us that feel more inspired to go out and do more things, we need to stay there and help out those who feel that, they just can't keep going. But we also need to push forward. We also need to remember what got us inspired in the first place and act on that. It was Bernie's populism. It was his idea of, guess what? You can challenge the system. You can say, I'm not okay with this. And you can make real change if you try hard. That has inspired me to decide to run for city council in the city of Olympia in the state of Washington, because I've seen the issues and I've seen the problems, and I believe that sometimes it just takes a person with the audacity to say, this is wrong and I'm going to fix it, to stand up and work for it. And I think that everyone watching tonight has the potential to do that in some way, shape, or form, be it running for office, being it is just sharing the link to something you find inspiring and hopefully inspiring other people. But we have to remember why we're doing this and move forward.
Absolutely. Well put, my friend. My fellow Project Sanity contributors, we will be live again tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern for Project Sanity right here on this channel, as well as over on the Benjamin Dixon Network and on Our Revolution TV. So subscribe here for sure, because this is where you're going to find the breaking news and more of Project Sanity shows, more of Two Black Dudes, the podcast, TBD, which is Brandon and Adair. That'll be up on the channel. More from Eric Miller in Olympia. And stay tuned for very exciting news for the channel and what we're going to be doing and collaborating with, who we're going to be collaborating with at the end of September. And we'll hopefully have more information for you tomorrow on the show. So make sure you tune in tomorrow night for Project Sanity. And for Project Sanity, Nis, congratulations, Nis. He's taking some time off and having nuptials. Am I supposed to say that? I don't know. Did I just blow it? I hope not. But anyway, Mazel Tov. And we look forward to you coming back. And we'll see you tomorrow night on Project Sanity. Rachel Green will be joining us again, back leading the show. I'll have news, and Adair and Brandon, I'm sure, will jump in, as well as Eric. So thanks for watching. Subscribe, get notifications, keep up the struggle. It is our revolution. It is all up to us. It's in our hands, all those hashtags. But we need to keep moving forward. Adair is right. It's all about taking action, getting involved, and keeping the revolution going so we can make some change in this damn country for the better. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. We'll see you tomorrow night on Project Sanity. Peace.